Hi, everybody. Welcome again to Enjoy English School. I'm Bruce.
I'm Antony.
And before we begin the lesson, happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me.
Wow,
happy
老师生日快乐
dear Bruce. Happy birthday to me. And I want to thank you very much, Antony. You gave me exactly the same present you did last year.
Oh, you mean coffee?
No, nothing.
Nothing. 天啊，老师好凶狠。老师说太棒了，你谢谢你给我的跟去年一样的礼物。然后我说什么礼物我怎么都不知道。他说什么都没有。
Okay, today we are going to France, the beautiful country in Europe known as France, and we'll be talking about the walled city of Carcassonne.
OK， 今天我们看到这个主题呢，你知道 the walled city， 这个 wall 后面加 ed， 把它变成一个形容词，就是有围墙的城市。这个城市叫 Carcassonne， 好，这是在这个卡卡松，也就是在法国南部，距离马赛有一段距离，但是就是在南部靠近那个西班牙的一个城市。那我们今天要讲这个主题就是卡卡松和它的历史。
Okay, let's take a look, of course, at the first sentence of the first paragraph.In the past, the world could be a dangerous place. I would change that to the world has always been everywhere a dangerous place. So it's setting the scene for this article. Remember, we're talking about a walled city. Why does it have a wall around it? Well, for the same reason that we have a door to a room. You want to have your private space. You want to feel safe.
没错，所以在这边的话，我们第一段的第一句话，老师刚刚就开玩笑讲说呢，其实事实上这句话呢，任何时候这世界都是蛮危险的哦。Has always been 的话，就会变成是永远一直到现在都是如此。但这句话他提到说 ，in the past， 在过去呢 ，the world。could be a dangerous place 是还蛮危险的。老师刚刚还有提到另外一个字，那为什么一个城市会有墙呢？是因为就像我们平常房间要有门一样，是希望能够保有这种 private 就是私人的这种自己有的那种空间。You want some privacy 的话就把 private 的 t 去掉，变成 cy 就变成名词 privacy 隐私的感觉。所以整句话就说了，在过去呢，这个世界可以是个非常危险的地方哦。
And now we have a good example of that. Armies might invade, and bandits were always roaming about. Well, the first one is more serious, of course. Armies, we're talking about soldiers. We're talking about war. And what happens in a war is one country or city attacks another. Now, bandits are groups of bad guys who go around the area where they live and they attack people. That's small scale. War and soldiers and armies are large scale.
没错，老师刚刚提到这个 scale 这个字的是范围、规模的意思，它的拼法是 scale scale。那所以他提到说的危险呢，有可能有分两种，一种是大范围的危险，像是 armies might invade， 也许呢有机会碰到军队入侵，哇，那很可怕，对不对 ？And bandits were always roaming about。在这里的话，第二个比较小范围的，就是在盗贼的这方面，可能盗贼横行啊，到处的话都有一些盗贼会打劫你，对不对？在这边的话，你看到这个字 roaming about， 你也可以说 roaming around， 代表四处游荡的意思。
How could people protect themselves? The world could be dangerous, whether it was large scale or small scale, and these two scales present the same problem. How do you protect yourself from soldiers or bandits?
没错，老师刚刚提到这个字 protect， 后面还讲到 protect themselves from something bad， 所以在这里的话，介系词还可以用 from 在后面接你要逃离的东西。OK， 所以在这边的话，我们有盗贼的问题，可能有军队入侵的问题，我们要怎么样保护自己呢？当初的人怎么保护自己呢？ How could people protect themselves?One
solution, one answer to this problem was to build a wall surrounding one's town or city. Now, surround here is used as an adjective from the verb. Notice in the middle is round. If something is round, it's like a circle. And if a wall surrounds your city, it circles, it goes around your city.
没错，这边这个字很重要 ，surround。那这边用片 surrounding 是因为前面那个已经动词 was 用过了，所以现在它的这个地方是 a wall， 名词后面接了一个 V-I-N-G，a wall surrounding one's town or city。所以整句话的意思就是说，其中一个办法，有一个办法就是这样子的 ，was to build a wall。建造一堵墙，然后围绕着一个这个城镇或者是城市，就用这个字来表达。A wall surrounding one's town or city， 这个用法名词后面加 V-I-N-G 的这种用法很重要哦。
And I forgot to mention, solution is simply an answer to a problem.
Solution 就是解决办法的意思。老师刚刚提到一个重点是，这个后面常常会用介系词 to，a solution to a problem or an answer to the problem.
Okay, our next paragraph. One of the best examples of a walled city is Carcassonne in southern France. A whole city can be surrounded by a wall if you have enough people to build it and if there's enough danger. And let's not forget the Great Wall of China was built to protect the Han people from other groups of people further away in the interior of Asia.
没错，老师刚刚提到这个万里长城的例子，当初是为了要保护汉民族，然后防止什么匈奴啦或其他的侵略，他们都把它叫成 barbarians， 这种野蛮人。但事实上，那是我们汉人的观点，或是那种大中华的一个观点而已。所以在第二段的第一句话，他提到说 ，one of the best examples， 这边特别注意是 one of， 后面会接一个复数的 examples， 好，特别注意记得这个地方 ，one of the best examples，one of my friends。然后在都要加 s 的这个地方才会对。One of the best examples of a wall city。那既然提到了有围墙的这个城市的话，其中一个最好的例子就是 Carcassonne in southern France， 在南法的或者是法国南部的卡卡松这个城市了。
At one time, that refers back to the city we're talking about, it was just a small, sleepy town on a hilltop. Of course, towns don't sleep, especially if you're from New York, the city that never sleeps. But the idea here is that it's not a big city and everybody goes to bed at night and wakes up early in the morning. It's a town, really, not a city. But then, so we can expect a change here, around 100 BCE, before the Common Era, the Romans came. Now, the Romans set themselves up around Rome, of course, in Italy, but they quickly spread out all through southern Europe, northern Africa, the Middle East. It was a great empire. And they began building fortifications. Now, we talked about protect earlier. If you build something to protect yourself, usually made of stone or wood, something strong enough, then we will call it a fortification.
没错，在这边还有很多字，我们来看看哦。他说 at one time， 曾经一度呢，it was just a small sleepy town on a hilltop。所以在这边的话，你会看到 sleepy town， 就是感觉很寂静，大家都很过得非常非常的这种祥和的日子，这种感觉。But then， 好，后面这个 but then 就知道后面有个转折了，对不对 ？Around 100 BCE，BCE 的话只是公元前100年的时候 ，the Romans， 好，就是罗马人当初来到这里 ，and began building fortifications。这个地方 fortifications 指的就是建筑堡垒啦、防御工事啦，好这样子的地方。他们来到这个地方之后呢，他就开始在这个地方就生根了，那想办法建筑防御工事，在这个地方做。老师刚刚提到说，罗马帝国当时的时候，哇，好多地方都在这边不断的扩张的非常的快，就在讲这段时间的日子。
Okay, next sentence. Over the next 2,000 years, now remember we're starting at 100 BCE, and if you add 2,000 years, that brings us to about the year 1900. Control of the region, who controlled Carcassonne and the area around it, changed hands several times. Well, it doesn't say whose hands it was controlled by, but maybe Spanish, maybe French, maybe Roman. It's hard to say, but it did change. with each new ruler adding more walls and towers. Maybe the city was successful, had a larger population. It has to grow out, and then maybe you need another wall to protect the new part of the town.
所以在这边的话，你看到接下来的2000年里头，西元前100年一路加的话，大概1900这段时间里头呢，Control of the region 就在这个地方的这种控制权呢，数次易主，就不断的好几个不同的人来攻打，或者是不同的人来占领这个地方，然后换了好几次之后呢 ，with each new ruler adding more walls and towers， 所以变成是一有新的主人来了之后，发现到哇，我把它攻下来了，但是我不能让别人攻下来，所以我决定要制造更多的这个城墙，还有更多的塔楼来防御，所以慢慢的塔楼啦、城墙啊、防御工事就更多建立起来了。
Okay, that finishes the part 1 so far. Let's take a break before we restart. Okay, welcome back. Now let's get busy with our third and fourth paragraphs. As centuries passed, remember we just talked about 2,000 years passing, Carcassonne grew into a city, not a town anymore, it's much bigger, it's a city, and became part of France, where it is today. The French reinforced the wall since it was close to the border with Spain. Antony mentioned this at the very beginning of the program, that Carcassonne is in southern France, not far from Spain, which was sometimes an enemy. That's the story of Europe. One country fighting another country, a neighbor, and many times over thousands of years.
没错，所以接下来在第3段的开头还说 as centuries passed， 经过数世纪的过去呢 Carcassonne grew into a city， 它就逐渐演变成一个城市了，而不只是一个小小的乡镇，对不对？ And became part of France， 意思就是指它变成了法国的一部分，变成法国的领土。The French reinforced， 这边提到这个 the French 指的是 French people， 法国人呢 reinforced the wall， 想办法逐渐的去巩固了这个围墙。Since it was close to the border with Spain， 这个 since 帮我圈起来，上面写一个 because， 为什么要好好的没事要加强它的城墙防御呢？是因为 it was close to the border， border 指的是边界的意思 with Spain， 因为是跟西班牙交界 which was sometimes an enemy， 西班牙的人呢有的时候会没事就过来侵犯一下，所以他把它整个城墙再加厚一点点，所以他这边讲到是过往欧洲打来打去这样的历史。
Carcassonne ended up with a 3-kilometer-long double wall with 53 towers, well reinforced. To end up with is in the final situation, in the final condition. The wall was 3 kilometers long. That's about 1.5 miles if you're familiar with miles. That's pretty long if you're building a wall, and it's a double wall. So there's probably an inner circle and an outer circle with 53 towers placed around so they can keep a good eye out what's happening outside of the city.
没错，所以在这边的话，你就看到他提到说 Carcassonne ended up with， 好，最后这样你也加强，我也加强，换一次主人就加一次强，这样子的情况之下呢，好 Carcassonne ended up with， 最后 Carcassonne 它演变成什么 with a 3-kilometer long or 3-kilometer long， 好，在这里要特别注意 kilometer 这个地方，因为整个是一个形容词，所以不能因为前面有 3 要加 s， 不可以。这边只要是3个都是用单数的 3-kilometer long double wall， 好，就是它是一个双层墙 with 53 towers， 好，有53个塔楼，那种感觉就是里面一层墙，外面一层墙。老师刚刚提到 inner wall 跟 outer wall， 就是指那个有内外的，那种感觉很像是你们看那个晋级的巨人有没有？还有里面一层外面一层这种感觉，用这样的规格来看就很清楚了。
During the 1600s, the region became less important strategically, and the fortress fell into ruin. So this southern part of France became less important Strategically means in terms of military planning and preparation and arranging. The population in the north of France became much, much more important to the country. After all, that's where Paris is today. And so Carcassonne and its double wall, which is a fortress, that's another word here, a place to protect you, is a fortress. If you fall into ruin, it means people don't pay attention to it. They don't repair anything, and it begins to look like a ruins.
好，我们来看这句话哦。他提到说 ，During the 1600s， 1600再加了 s 之后，就是指1600到1699这100年的时间。在17世纪里头呢 ，the region became less important strategically。刚刚老师提到说，因为呢，法国北部的巴黎嘛，所以说变成是军事地位比较重要的，慢慢移往北部。南部呢，在战略地位上面就没有那么重要了。好，这个 strategically 指的是军事上的战略地位。And the fortress fell into ruin。在这边提到 fell into ruin， 代表这边变成是有点破败，没有人看顾，然后之后慢慢就凋零了。所以很多的这个堡垒呢，它也就开始变成了像废墟一样。ruin 这个字要特别注意，如果你要讲说什么地方 be in ruins 要加这个 s， 但平常的话，如果你可以提到说 a ruin 指的就是指废墟，然后 ruins 它也可以是复数的意思。
Okay, continuing. In fact, the French government wanted to tear down the castle in 1849, but the decision caused an uproar among the public. So it was in ruins pretty much. And so the French said, no one's living here, or very few people still live here, and it looks terrible. You know how classy the French are. And if something is in ruins, they want to change it or get rid of it. And they thought this in 1849. Let's tear it down. Let's destroy it, get rid of it. But the decision caused an uproar among the public. The public are the people. And they liked this because it was historic, or they just thought it was romantic or whatever. And so they protested against this.
老师刚刚提到 protest against something 就是抗议的意思，那后面接 against 就是指抗议后面他不要的东西。好，在这个字的话，我们可以拼一下protest protest 在这里面没有，老师刚刚有提到这个字，所以在这边的话呢，整句话就说 In fact, the French government 这法国政府当初呢，在1849年的时候，本来打算想要把这个城墙啦，把这些堡垒统统给拆掉的。But the decision caused an uproar。那意思就是当时的这些民众呢，群起而反对，说不行啊，引发了轩然大波，说不要拆。Among the public 就是指大众，住在那边人觉得说不行，这个是历史上很重要的，我们好喜欢，不可以拆。
Instead, the entire structure was restored and preserved for future generations. So finally, the government listened to the people, and instead of tearing down the castle, they restored, they fixed it up and preserved it. Of course, if you fix something up, and if you keep fixing it up so it's in good condition, then you preserve it so that generations from now, people will be able to see what their history was like.
没错，所以这边的话，他说 instead， 那相反的怎么做了呢 ？The entire structure， 它整个这个城堡啊，整个这个堡垒都被 restored， 慢慢被修复了 ，and preserved， 被保存了，让后代子孙可以看 for future generations.
Okay, our final paragraph. Today, the wall is no longer needed for defense. Spain and France, I can't remember the last time they fought a war. And Carcassonne has become a popular tourist destination. If you wanted to see what life in the countryside was like hundreds of years ago, you can go there now and see it for yourself.
没错，所以到后来时至今日呢 ，the wall is no longer needed for defense， 这个墙不再是防御需要的了。And Carcassonne has become a popular tourist destination。在法国有几个重要的，一个是 Mont Saint-Michel 圣米歇尔山，这是一个大家最常去的地方。然后第二个呢，就是这里 Carcassonne。所以有机会到南法的话，你会看到 it's a popular tourist destination， 就是一个非常有名的观光景点。
The wall's main job now is to please armies of tourists instead of stopping armies of soldiers. I love this sentence. It's very well written. So the wall's main job, the main purpose of the wall now is to please armies of tourists. Antony just said this, it's a very popular tourist destination, and the wall now attracts people instead of keeping out armies of soldiers.
没错，在这里的话玩了一个文字游戏。Army 本来指的是军队嘛，对不对？如果说今天是 Army of Soldiers， 是大批的军队士兵进驻。以前的话是防御这些军队不要进来，但现在的 Wall's main job， 现在它最主要的功能呢，就是 to please， 好，就是去取悦 armies of tourists， 好，就是取悦这些一大堆来的观光客。我们在这边用 Army 这个字来玩一个文字游戏，很酷。
Okay, we have a couple interesting words for you in our review. Okay, we have a quick review for you here. In the first part that we talked about, in the first two paragraphs, we have the word fortifications.And in our part 2, that would be in paragraph 3, we had the word fortress. Now, they both start with fort, which I suppose you know. Fortifications is more general. It can include a fortress, which is really another word for fort, but it can also include outposts, some distance from the town, or water. And the only way you can get into the town is by crossing a bridge. So a bridge and water and outposts are fortifications. Fortress would be the main building, like a castle.
没错，所以这里的话，我们在第三段所看到的 fortress， 这是指一个单独的一个建筑和一个堡垒。但如果说在第二段里面看到 fortifications， 就是各式各样的防御工事。老师刚刚有提到说，也许是护城河，也包含了堡垒，或者是外面有几个前哨的站去保护说，如果有敌人来犯的时候，他们会事先知道，这些都是 fortifications 在这个范畴里头。但如果你提的是单独的一个建筑物的话，我们会用 fortress 这个字。
Okay, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed the program, and we have a few more for you this month. Tune in anytime. We're with you and for you. Till then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.